Hello and welcome to our auction update. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic will join me in just a moment as we hear that Melbourne and Sydney are well up on last year. We'll give you the figures and they are quite outstanding too. And also Sydney could just crack another record. Kevin Brogan joins me in just a moment.
In today's market, great ideas alone simply aren't enough, but innovative execution can hand you a real competitive advantage. Nightlight is a cutting-edge illuminated signboard by Printforce that offers round-the-clock visibility and features that maximise advertising space, improving your exposure. Buyers can now see the full picture day or night with Nightlight's edge-to-edge illuminated surface, which utilises environmentally friendly, scratch-resistant technology. Now available in 6x4 and 8x4. Nightlight is as versatile as you need to be in today's market. Let your clients know you're working day and night for them, and then prove it with Nightlight.
Kevin Brogan back once again from CoreLogic. Hi Kevin, how you doing?
I'm really good, thanks Kevin. How are you?
Yeah, good mate. As we said at the intro there, Melbourne and Sydney well up on last year. Let's bring the preliminary clearance rates up. We can see, just have a look at the difference in Sydney. I think this time last year, Kevin, 46.9% up to 77, almost 80% this year.
Yeah, look, this is the strongest performance we've seen from Sydney for a good while. I mean, 77% is outstanding, and fueled by some of the sub-regions of Sydney, a couple of which have actually achieved 90% this week.
Yeah, we'll have a look at those sub-regions in just a moment. Melbourne not doing too badly either at 73.6%, off 56.2% this time last year.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Melbourne has been tantalisingly close to that 70% mark. This week, obviously, lower volume of auctions, but it's crept over. It'd be interesting to see whether Melbourne stays above 70% in the final reckoning.
That figure from Brisbane at 30%, a little bit disappointing. Is that reflected in the lack of reporting, do you think, Kevin, or is that going to be what it's like?
Oh, look, I think as we've discussed before, Brisbane has managed to reach as high as 40%, but it's also sometimes dipped down into the low to mid 20s. So, look, obviously more results are better. There's no question that we try and collect as many results as we can, but I suspect Brisbane is probably going to end up there or thereabouts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Canberra continues its strong run too at 71.4%. Even this time last year, it was still at 65 or 66%, Kevin.
Yeah, look, Canberra's an interesting case. It was sitting above Sydney for quite a long time while Sydney was softening. But in 2019, Canberra's really been lagging behind the sort of recovery and clearance rates we've seen in Sydney. But this week, it's sort of right up there. As with every other capital city, low volumes though.
Our top sale out of Australia comes out of Sydney. Let's have a look at the Sydney sub-regions, and you reflected there on the fact that, well, eastern suburbs, look at it at 90%, and also in Ryde 90%, and a good number of auctions in those areas as well, Kevin.
Yeah, look, I mean, for this reporting week, that's a reasonable number of auctions, but in each case, that's from 20 results, which is not high for those markets, but nonetheless, I mean, 90% is as high as we've seen for a couple of years.
Yeah, inner southwest and inner west, they're at 87%. You can't discount those either. They're pretty good results.
No, look, there's a good number of regions, including North Sydney and Hornsby, sitting there above 80%, and that is a very strong result for each of those regions.
Okay, well, let's take you to the top sale out of Sydney. We'll bring up the Just Click video for you now to have a look at this. This is described as being luxury with no expense spared. I couldn't resist having a look at the indoor cinema in this one as well. Love that back wall. This one sold 65A Broughton Road at Strathfield, 3.25 million. This is sold by Bell Property. Spectacular home. Didn't you love the wall at the back of that cinema, Kevin?
Oh, look, I did, but there are lots of features of this property to love. That double height living room.
Yes.
is quite a spectacular feature. The swimming pool as well is sensational. It's on a 779 square metre battle axe block, so you've got the benefit of that sort of inner city location, only about 12 kilometres west of the Sydney CBD, and also you've got a bit of quiet. You're a fair way away from the road.
And Strathfield seems to pop up quite often in our top sales out of Sydney as well. Pretty popular area, Kevin.
It certainly is. I mean, look, the median price at the moment is about 2.1 million. Now that has come down from the peak at 2.5 million. But nonetheless, we have still continued to see properties in that pocket sell because it is so highly sought after. So that appeal sort of endures through all market conditions.
A top sale out of Melbourne, which we'll show you in just a moment, achieving over 2.5 million. But before we do that, let's take you to the Melbourne sub-regions. Look at the strength of the inner region there with 70 auctions and 83.6%, Kevin.
Yeah, that is the top region for Melbourne, both in terms of activity and the clearance rate. That is, I suppose, leading the charge for the recovery.
Any other standouts for you outer east? Not a huge number of auctions there, but still a good result.
Look, absolutely. So the outer east is an area which is sort of inclusive of a number of suburbs where you've got that sort of suburban growth, the commuter belt. But nonetheless, I mean, again, over 80% is fantastic. Inner east and inner south really not that far behind in the high 70s as well.
Okay, our top sale out of Melbourne is a charming 3-bedroom brick Victorian family home. This one's sold by Thomas Moreland Property. Barbara and Tom selling it for, as I said just a little while ago, just over 2.5 million, 2,555,000. What can you tell us about Melbourne?
Well, look, Melbourne is again one of those places which has an enduring appeal. It's a highly sought after location. The median house price there is actually fairly similar to Strathfield. It's at 2.2 million. That's actually down from 2.6 since the peak, but nonetheless, we do still see properties in that area selling. Just for context, this property was actually purchased in 1981 for $75,000. It was then extended in 2017 and obviously has been significantly updated whilst retaining some of those sort of 1890 period features.
Wonderful. We're going to come back in just a moment and tell you the top sale out of Brisbane, which is in the suburb of Ascot. We'll return in just one moment.
Did you know you can save up to 70% on your staff costs by outsourcing the low-value, repeatable tasks so your team can focus on growing your business? Beepo is an outsourcing provider focused on the real estate industry. With an English-speaking, tertiary qualified and fully trained team in the Philippines, Beepo will give your business the boost it needs to start growing and returning value to you. For more information, visit beepo.com.au.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined each and every Monday by Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic as he gives us the most comprehensive look at what's happened over the weekend with the auction results. I'll have a look at the Brisbane result. Now, top result out of Brisbane was a sale recorded by Ray White Ascot, Alexander and Lisa, recording this sale at $1,420,000, 129 Tower Street, Ascot, 5-bedroom home. Quintessential Ascot living. This is not really surprising. Ascot comes up time and time again. It is a prestige suburb, Kevin.
Look, it certainly is, and this house is immaculately presented. Built in about 1930 and obviously restored to retain some of those features and the beautiful timber that's been used. Sits on a corner block, 390 square metres, so a modest sized block, but really quite a large dwelling. And interesting to see this property last sold in November 2015 for 1.4 million.
Okay, so around about the same kind of figure as it's returning now.
Oh, absolutely, and you know it is. I mean, it's a beautiful house, but obviously Ascot is an area renowned for properties like this, and the median price is currently around 1.5 million, so pretty much bang on.
And to the nation's capital now, where we look at the top sale out of Canberra. This is a home circa 1928, very well presented heritage home, 33 Alamata Street in Reed, 1,462,000, sold by Luton Properties. Nico and Peter, they teamed up with Amanda to record this sale. Reed, tell me about Reed, Kevin.
Well, Reed is about 2 kilometres to the east of the centre of Canberra, so it is literally walking distance to the centre of Canberra. This is typical for the area. There are lots of really large blocks. I mean, this is 1,289 square metres. At the moment, the house is fairly modest by modern standards on that site. And it's interesting to see that the property was marketed with suggestions for refurbishment and extension. But as you mentioned, it is actually heritage listed, and I see there's a link on there to get some heritage advice before making any changes to the property.
Yeah, there once was a time when heritage listing would strike fear into the heart of many buyers, but it doesn't seem to do that anymore, Kevin. I think whether we've become more accustomed to it or whether we feel like, we're playing a part in history by acquiring a property like this and protecting its heritage, I think it's wonderful.
Oh, look, and I think your comment at the beginning about it being well presented is important. A heritage property which has fallen into disrepair can be a very expensive proposition indeed, whereas a heritage property which is in good condition really can add value because they are really very desirable.
We'll take you to our Just Click video of the top Adelaide sale. This is a timeless property, an absolutely beautiful home, Bluestone Villa, 66 Moseley Street in Glenelg South, 1,650,000 by McCammon Real Estate. Brett and Anton recording this. A 4-bedroom home, but just magnificent from the outside. That bluestone is just wonderful, Kevin.
Oh, look, it certainly is. I mean, I think the last 3 that we've reported from Adelaide have been of a similar vintage. I think the last 2 were 1910. This one's a little earlier at 1890, but it has retained a significant number of its period features. 12 kilometres from the Adelaide CBD and 400 metres from the beach. We've seen values slip a little in Glenelg. I mean, it is one of the higher value suburbs. So whilst Adelaide as a whole has kept quite steady, we've seen a little bit of slippage here. But the median house price here is just a shade over $1 million, and that's down from about 1.15 million.
Well, we start the week with a weighted average preliminary of 69%. If we record a final figure over 60%, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the 5th week in a row, Kevin?
Yeah, that's right, Kevin. It is going to be the 5th week over 60%, and I think that clearly shows that there has been confidence returning to the market. One of the frustrations, I suppose, is the volume of auctions has been fairly low, but I think the fact that we've now seen that over a sustained period, I think, increases the significance.
Yeah, I think given the fact that it's been now 5 weeks, and as you've rightly pointed out, a number of auction programs, they require at least 4 to 6 weeks to hit the market and for us to see a result. One would hope that those number of listings are actually going to improve.
Well, look, through shows like this and other reporting, we've been putting out the results which are encouraging. If you were looking to sell by auction at the moment, you've got to be taking some encouragement from the clearance rates that we've seen. As you mentioned, there is a bit of a lead time, but we've now had a couple of rate cuts. The change to the APRA serviceability buffer has come in, which is going to make it easier for some people to get approval for a mortgage, and for others it will extend their borrowing capacity. So all of those factors should lead to a busy spring, I would think.
One would hope so. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic. I look forward to catching up with you again on Friday when we'll have a look at the final results and a look ahead at what's coming up in the week ahead with the auction numbers. Kevin Brogan brings us this wonderful insight every week. All the stats coming from CoreLogic, and we thank them for that as well. And also Just Click Videos for providing us with the videos of the top sales around Australia. Kevin, I look forward to catching up with you again at the end of the week, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kevin.